Good evening. Oh, it's not working. Good evening and welcome to the City of Elyria Community Development Committee meeting for Monday, March 10th, 2025. We have 3 items on tonight's agenda. The first matter is the matter of the approval of the minutes from the community development meetings as circulated for November 25th, 2024, December 16th, 2024, and January 13th, 2025. I'll entertain a motion from the committee.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mrs. Mitchell and seconded by Mr. Oswald.
Question.
Question's been called. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on, item number 2 is the matter of a conditional use permit for 1000 Lowell Street, referred by 1000 Lowell LLC. Note, this matter was approved by Planning Commission on March 4th, 2025. We do have City Planner Schoenig in the audience that could talk on this. Oh, and is the proponent here as well? The applicant?
He is.
Okay.
He's sitting right there.
Okay, and Mr. Pickens, correct? If you'd like to come up, we'll have you speak as well. And then we'll have Mr. Schoenig follow. Sorry about that. I didn't realize the applicant was here. Welcome. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Glenn Pickens. Address is 2150 St. Clair Avenue, Cleveland, Ohio, 44114.
Thank you. Welcome. And just give us a rundown of why you're here and what you're looking to do.
So I have a salon suite building over on Lowell. There are 15 suites. They are meant to house anybody in the beauty industry, whether they be estheticians, hairstylists, nail techs, permanent tattooing. A couple years ago when I was here, I could have swore that the salon catch-all caught all of these different activities underneath it. But after my understanding, I guess the interpretation of salon is vast. So I am seeking a conditional use for, again, estheticians, nail techs, and primarily permanent makeup, which is a type of, tattooing.
Great. Thank you. Any comments from the panel? Mrs. Mitchell?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. Just to let everyone know, his salon is in the old EST building on Lowell Street.
Yes.
So I think that gives everybody a better understanding where you are.
Thank
That's
you.
all. Thank
Mr. Callahan?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chairman. I drove by there this afternoon on my way home from work, and it looks very nice. So good job. Thank you.
Appreciate the compliment.
All right. Any other comments from the panel? All right. Since this did pass Planning Commission, Mr. Schoenig, is there anything that you'd like to bring forward?
Thank you. Through the chair. Just real quick, summary is the applicant has stated this is a conditional use for a permanent tattoo, or rather tattooing esthetician, permanent makeup, nail tech, licensed beauty service provider. The initial request for conditional use in 2022 just covered the in terms of personal services was for a shop and salon. This is in a light industrial area where personal services are permitted, and we are recommending approval from a staff point of view.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Schoenig? All right, we'll read the committee report. We've considered the matter of a conditional use permit requested by Glenn Pickens and Salon Block Suites for a salon barbershop located at 1000 Lowell Street, old EST Bank Building. An ordinance approving said conditional use permit request. Note, this request was approved by Planning Commission on March 4th, 2025 with no conditions. I'll entertain a motion.
you. Second.
Moved by Mrs. Mitchell, seconded by Mr. Oswald.
Question.
Question's been called. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for your investment. All right, the next item is Item number 3, the matter of discussion, or, yes, Chapter 735 of Elyria codified ordinances regarding massage parlor establishments, and this is referred by Council 7 member Sarah and Assistant Director Calvert. Mrs. Calvert?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. So this matter was brought to my attention during one of our town halls for the zoning code update by Ms. Young, who is the owner of Studio 828 on Cleveland Street. And it was brought to our attention that there were a number of, my words, outdated requirements that the city had in order for her to get approval to offer massage services at the salon that she owns. So we read through the ordinance, did agree that some of the requirements seem to be outdated at best. And I did have a conversation with Director Deary and also Councilman Sarah about how we should move forward in thinking about what changes need to be required to meet the intent of the code, but also make it easier for salon owners specifically to be able to offer these services to their clients. And Ms. Young is here. She offered to come here tonight. While her specific situation has been resolved, she was kind enough to agree to be here tonight to kind of share her experience and where some of the regulations are and how we can better support business owners like her.
All right, welcome, Mrs. Young. Would you like to come up? All right, thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Shaquana Young, 313 Olive Street, Elyria, Ohio, 44035. So, hello, everyone. I am a salon owner. This year, it was 10 years that I've been opened. We just relocated onto Cleveland Street in November. And this move was a little different than when I first opened. I had a lot of, when I first went in for my permit, they had asked what the building was going to be, and I said a salon and spa made everybody's eye buckle. And they're like, what is spa? And I said, we do hair, nails, esthetician services, and massage. And massage was a big stop. So we first went over zoning. I was good in zoning. Then it asked me, then I was given these ordinances. And the ordinances I noticed were very outdated. There was no children allowed to be on the premises. We weren't allowed to massage anyone under the age of 18, which if anybody is in sports, they know we have sports medicine. And with a parent's permission, they are able to get a massage. We do not want to do it under the age of 16, though. The biggest fight, the back and forth, was over having a window unobstructed on the door of the massage room. And we kind of went back and forth with that for a while. The person, and I needed to get a license, a business license through the city, even though I'm already licensed through the state. And then the city needed me to get the person's credentials and send it to the city in order for them to approve that I am able to do the services that I do, which I've already known I didn't necessarily have to do that, but it was a lot of back and forth, right? So when the person I was going to have come on decided not to come on, I stopped it. I said, at this point, I just want to open. I'll revisit it when I do find someone. So I did find someone. I called down and I said, hey, I've already put in an application. What do? I have their credentials. I'm playing the game. And they said, okay, just send everything that you have, no problem. Well, then I get a call that says, okay, well, in order for you to do it, you're going to have to do these things. And so I went back and forth, and I'm like, what is the point of a window on a door? I was told so that the police can look inside. I have been a business owner for 10 years with no issues. There's no reason for the police to come inside. I said that having a window unobstructed is a violation of privacy. It is a violation of HIPAA privacy as well, because they are licensed medical massage therapists. And I wasn't being heard. I said, hey, have you guys even looked at the ordinances? And it was, this is the law, this is the law. I'm like, you guys have to look. This doesn't make sense, you know? And so I'm working. You know, I could have gave up, but that ain't how I roll. So I did, I had Mr. Vargas and Mr. Shonick come to the salon. I said, at least look, see that the things that are being requested is not, this isn't the space for that. Oh, I needed to have 2 dressing rooms for men and women with locker rooms and all. And I'm like, you get dressed in the room. The person leaves out the room. Like, there's no reason to move from one room to the other. So there I was invited to the zoning meeting where I did speak, and I spoke with Ms. Dawn Calvert, and with her help, we were able to get some stuff approved. So I just want to say that, you know, the ordinances are almost 40 years old and no longer really relevant. And I know I'm not the only place in Elyria that has massage, and I would like that if somebody else decides to bring it in, that it's not an issue that they have to deal with as well. I think I'm done.
All right. Thank you, Mrs. Young, for sharing your experience with us, and Director Calvert for taking this pretty efficiently. I know she had come into the zoning meeting just a few weeks ago, so things are moving fairly quick.
I know, so impressed.
With it being regarding laws and legislation, I'll let Law Director Deary speak on behalf of the topic, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. I do appreciate Councilman Sarah and Director Calvert for bringing this forward. Yes, I mean, bottom line, these ordinances are from 1988. I'm not going to go so far as to say, I mean, unfortunately, there are businesses in our community that do engage in certain practices that do necessitate us to have regulations. That being said, there is an entire category of businesses that, again, are regulated by the state of Ohio, that, again, following all those rules, I don't know why we as a city would be trying to supersede, again, if someone's a certified licensed massage therapist, et cetera, and they are good with the state, and again, their zoning and things like fire code and building code are in place. I'm not quite sure. Obviously, the ultimate decision lies with this committee and also with full council, but I'm not quite sure why in 2025 our ordinances need to get involved to such an extent of for instance, saying that there should be unobstructed windows in the doors to the rooms. So I've done a bit of research. I've looked at some other communities in Ohio. I did earlier today send out an email sample, and I have some hard copies for the committee here tonight. One I think that would be very helpful to take a look at is from Huber Heights. Bottom line, if a business has on staff a licensed or certified massage practitioner as is defined by the Ohio Revised Code, basically our ordinances would not apply or would to that establishment. It would be up to council if council still wants a business to go through a permitting process with our city, in addition to the requirements of the state. And obviously, that would be up to you to let me know if that's how you'd want me to draft it. I know this is just up for discussion this evening, but I am more than happy to get feedback, and certainly some things I think are pretty much no-brainers as far as repealing some of these things outright, and certainly revising some of the other pieces, parts of our ordinance to bring it up. As Ms. Calvert said, make it up to date, certainly.
Thank you, Law Director Deary. Before I open it up to the committee, I wanted to check with Councilman Sarah, since you were also a sponsor on this, to see if you'd like to speak on this matter.
Thank you, but I think I'll defer to Ms. Culver because she's had the most legwork on this.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Anything further, Mrs. Calvert?
No, thank you. I think just to say that I think there are a number of rules within that, or requirements within that legislation that need to be considered. Things like nobody under the age of 18 on premises, so you wouldn't be able to even hire somebody under the age of 18 to be there. There's a requirement that no alcohol should be on the premises, which of course that's, up to council's discretion, but I will say that a lot of salons and spas do offer complimentary wine or beverages, especially if you're celebrating a bridal party or something like that. So I just think that there's a lot in this legislation that should be reconsidered.
Thank you. I'll open it up to the committee for discussion. Mrs. Mitchell, did you have your hand up? Oh, Mr. Armstrong.
Thank you, Mr. Armstrong. Chair, through you. Mrs. Culver, thank you very much for taking the time and the effort to go through this. Ms. Young, I'm so sorry that you had to go through this. I have had the pleasure of having a massage at a couple of different places, and there's no window in the door, which is absolutely ridiculous. And I changed clothes in the room where my massage was. So to say that some of these rules are obsolete and ridiculous, so I think it would benefit us to change some of the rules, to look at them, to see what needs to be updated, what needs to be deleted, to make us more business friendly. Mrs. Young is trying to open a business here in Elyria, and she has great clientele, she has a great salon, and I think we should be doing everything we can to work with businesses. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Mitchell. Mr. Armstrong?
Through you, Chair, I'm not on this committee, but I have a few questions I want to ask about this. For one, how many, maybe this would be to you, Director Polanowski, but how many massage parlors do we have in the city?
I don't know the total number at this time.
Okay, that's fine. So my second question is, are we actively doing 735.05 or 06 where we're checking every year of these businesses if they're still active or not?
I'll
Like,
let
have we
Law
did
Dir-
any last year?
We
I'll
have,
refer it to the
Yeah.
Law Director.
no.
Oh,
that's-
go ahead.
That's my function.
Oh, sorry.
We have.
Okay.
We have inspected, and we've gotten reports on occasion of something that didn't look right, and we've used that as an opportunity to inspect, and we actually shut one down through that process. But yes,
All right, through you, Chair. Again, after reading through this chapter, there is a lot of ridiculousness that I don't agree with, and Ms. Young, I do apologize that you had to go through all this, but my main thing I want to say is 735.03 is the exemptions, and being that you are state certified, correct? Why did you even have to go through this process? Because it says right here that you basically don't. So I'm a little confused.
I can answer that. Through you.
Director
Mr.
Pianowski.
Chair. I think that initially there was an attempt, and then she backed off to, I think, focus on the salon part. And so there was, and then eventually we did get the individuals she was going to hire and that they were state licensed. And so then I reached out to the building department and made them aware of that, and that's when we decided that the exemption did apply. So there was a little bit of change of direction and then a rechange, and once we had that information, we did agree that that exemption applied. The other parts, as far as the inspection, I'm not sure of the timing of that, but there was some conversation about an exemption applying once we had that information.
Thank you, Director. Mr. Armstrong, was that everything? All right, you have more? Okay, Mr. Oswald?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So can we just defer to state license with this, or do we have to change if that's what it just says in the code?
I'll refer to Law Director Deary. That was what I was thinking as well.
So through you, Mr. Chair. So the council will have to take action to repeal this old language. I will work something up. I do think should council desire, I think one way to go is to basically have our ordinances state that if an entity has on staff someone who is regulated by the state, then they do not need to go through the process of getting a local permit.
Yeah, I think that's.
However, if someone is not, then they do need to abide. Maybe not everything that's circa 1988, but then they do need to, yes, go through this local process. Because as Director Franowski said, there have been some recent issues where the police have gone in and there have been some illegal activities going on.
Thank you, Director Deary. Mr. Armstrong, did you have a question? Okay. Any further discussion from the, I'm sorry, Mrs. Young?
My 2 cents for that is because this is a state license thing, anyone that's not state licensed should not even have the opportunity, even if the owner is licensed. If the people in there aren't licensed, they shouldn't be able to work there. We're dealing with so much people outside of that just aren't licensed to, that.
Thank you. Director Pianowski?
Thank you, through you. Let me just remind the council here that there are instances where somebody has a state license and we still have local requirements. Marijuana comes to mind, right? So I mean, it's not an all, it doesn't have to be an all or nothing. Could we have a lesser a process when somebody has the state license? Sure. Could we have, so I mean, we can look at that. It's not hands off just because the state issues a license saying somebody can conduct massages. We should still make sure the property is safe and, we might have some other requirements. So I think there's a balance to be had there. And so I'd be happy to work with the law director to figure out what that appropriate balance is, and make sure that, we update the things to take into consideration, maybe some changes in state requirements either that maybe we don't currently factor in, but to make it an easier process that still has some safeguards that the city would be interested in. That would be my suggestion.
Thank you, Director. Mrs. Davis?
Through you, Chair, I'm not on this committee. I just wanted to make a comment. I just welcome Mrs. Young to the city. And just to say that we're open-minded as council, as the city of Elyria, to move forward in having business in our area, that we are willing to go the extra mile to see what we can do to continue to keep you here and bring others in that is beneficial to the city. So just thank you for that.
Thank you. Mr. Callahan?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I agree with the Safety Service Director. Balance is the key. I mean, there's going to be some give and take and some compromise, but it's basically a case-by-case situation. Every now and then you might have a bad egg in the basket, so to speak. But I generally believe taking a look at this and having a state license also is a plus. So, and again, that's my thoughts. And also I want to say thank you for picking Elyria to have your business.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion from the committee or the applicants or Mrs. Calvert? All right, I'll read the committee report. We've considered the matter of changes to the codified ordinance, Chapter 735, massage parlor establishments. An ordinance approving the said changes to Elyria Codified Ordinance, Chapter 735. I need to read any more, that's it.
I thought it was for discussion. Mr.
Yes.
Chair, through you,
Yes.
we are voting on.
Well, through you, Mr. Chair, and Mrs. Mitchell, I mean, there have been no finalized changes yet. May I suggest that this would be continued for some further discussion, and I can bring a draft back to the committee at your next meeting?
So we'll table it.
I would suggest that, and then
Okay.
you can address the committee report ideally at that next meeting.
Okay, this matter has been tabled. Mrs. Mitchell?
Thank you, Chair, through you to the law director. Us tabling it will not affect Mrs. Young and her ability to do what she does in any way?
No, through you, because even under our current Chapter 735, her business is exempt due to the state certifications
you.
that they hold.
Thank you. The matter has been tabled. I don't think. There's no further business to come before community development. We will, oh, what do we have, number 3? Oh, we're going into joint, yeah. I was just saying the community development, yeah. Community development, we will now go to joint, and Mr. Collette will call the meeting.
At this time, I will call finance to order and like to say welcome in advance to our friends from Labor.
All right, we have 2 items on this evening's agenda. The first item is the matter of approval of the meeting minutes for the Joint Community Development and Finance Committee meeting for February 10th and February 24th, 2025, as circulated. I'll entertain a motion from Community Development.
So move.
Motion's been moved and properly seconded. Question's been called. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 2.
Wait,
Oh, motion.
on behalf of finance, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded.
Question.
Question's been called. All in favor, use the voting sign aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
All right. Item 2 on the agenda is the matter of the creation of the Project Labor Agreement, PLA, for construction of the new Public Works Complex, referred by Mayor Brubaker.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you remember, last fall, council approved a new Public Works complex where we bonded out about $21 million to build a new Public Works complex on our property across the street on Garden Street, where the current one is. And speaking with Mr. Strozak today, who is leading that charge, we are in the final stages of the design part of that, and the anticipation is that we will be able to go to bid in very early summer to get that out to our contractors. And as you pass that in the fall, I started having conversations with some local labor groups, primarily Local 758, Mr. Brookie, in regards to a possible PLA, project labor agreement with this project. And he shared with me a lot of pros to why this would be a benefit of the city. Primarily, potentially could be keep us under budget, get it done on time. The other thing that was very concerning and very open to me is within our labor unions within the city and within the county, a lot of our labor unions are sending our workers out of the counties away to do work on projects because there's just not work, in Lorain County or in the city. And that was concerning to me because if we have not just Lorain Countyans, but primarily Illyrians that are within these bodies of work in this labor, they're working outside the city of Elyria, so they are not paying taxes to the city of Elyria. And as we know, we have a revenue concern in our city. So that was very intriguing to hear Mr. Brookie share that with me. And over the last few months, I've been sending to you, the Good Jobs Initiative paperwork, which all of you received, and I know I received a couple questions from several of you over the last couple months. And as we got closer to the time to bid this out, I thought it was appropriate to bring it to council to ask for support for a project labor agreement for the reasons that I stated. I've also talked through Mr. Strozak, Strollo Architects, who is doing the design and will be our construction manager on this project. They have worked locally in the Youngstown area as well as other areas in that northeastern part of the state with PLAs. They are very comfortable with that. This would be included in the bid process throughout the program, so they were comfortable with stating that they had no issue with this being done. So I am in very big support of this. Again, we have Illyrians and we have Lorain counties that are just going outside of our area to work, and this would be nice to have a $21 million project right here in Elyria that can be utilized and bring some of our workers into our area. So this evening, Mr. Brookie from Local 758 is here, as well as Matthew Zalazzi, who's the Affiliated Construction Trades of Ohio Foundation. He's the executive director. And I've asked him to share a couple comments in regards to PLAs and then allow, obviously, through you, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Chairman, any questions or thoughts that you may have. So, Mr. Zalazzi, if you would, and for the record, state your name and address, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Welcome.
And I might add, before he gets started, I did send a template PLA to the law director several weeks ago, and she'll be able to speak to it here shortly, but she has been in contact with some folks in regards to PLAs as well, so that has been done also.
Thank you, Mayor, Chairman, Mr. President, members of council. I appreciate the opportunity to be here this evening, and thank you for what you do for the city of Elyria. My name is Matthew Salasi. Go by Matthew if I'm in trouble. But appreciate the opportunity to be here to discuss with you just a couple of points of interest on project labor agreements. But before I start, I want to recognize that Mayor's already recognized Mr. Brookie, but I'd like to point out all of my brothers and sisters in the building trades that happen to be here, many of whom live in the city of Elyria, and wanted to very publicly thank them, not just for being here, but for everything you do every day to make Elyria and Lorain County a better place. So appreciate your hard work and what it is you do and what you stand for. Very proud. Project labor agreements, pretty simple tool. It's an agreement that lays out the terms and conditions of a particular project. So on a project like this, I mean, it's a $22 million investment, taxpayer investment, nothing to sneeze at. Pretty large-scale construction project, and the project agreement, as I mentioned, simply lays out the basic terms and conditions of the job. Once the job is complete, the project labor agreement is complete, and hopefully the taxpayers have realized significant savings. And I can best explain it like this. I served on the Oregon City Council, well to the west of here is a suburb of Toledo, for 4 terms in a previous lifetime, it seems. And back then, and I'm sure it's no different now, what you're looking for is certainty. If you can have or achieve as close to certainty as you can on your project budget, on your project timeline, and of course, the utilization of highly skilled local men and women to achieve the best possible work product for the lowest possible price. That's the certainty that we always look for, and I'm sure what any owner is looking for. You know, you hear it over and over and over again, but hey, let's keep the money local. Let's put Illyrians and Lorain Countyans to work on what will be a magnificent project such as this. So at the end of the day, this is nothing new. If there's one thing I want to reassure each and every one of you, I think the number was 327 in the state of Ohio last year, project labor agreements. So this is not anything new in terms of project maintenance. They can be done and are done very commonly in concert with Ohio's competitive bid statute, so you don't have any procurement issues. We've determined in many instances it increases the number of bidders because you have, for all intents and purposes, a guarantee that you're going to have highly skilled labor on site. Local subcontractors engage more when they know that that's the platform and the type of high-scale, high-efficiency, well-run project that you're going to receive. At the end of the day, it just makes good sense. They're public sector, project labor agreements, private sector. The interest for the private investor is the same as it is for each and every one of you, your fiduciaries. You answer to taxpayers. The private sector leadership, CEOs, their board of directors answer to their investors. at the end of the day, and shareholders. So at the end of the day, the interest is the same. Try to achieve that certainty for your investment and achieve the best possible work product for the lowest possible price. If I could, hopefully everybody, I don't know, Colleen, did they receive this? I would just want to take your attention very quickly to a particular case study that is close to home here. If you turn to page 30 and 31, it looks like this, and you will see Lorraine City High School, which was built under a project labor agreement. This was back during the John Kasich administration. And in our case study here, we go into significant detail on the building system, the different packages. You'll see on the left-hand column there, site work, general trades, masonry, structural steel, roofing, glazing, the kitchen equipment, casework, fire protection, plumbing, HVAC, electrical, and the security and instrument tech. And you will see the architect's estimate in the first column under the word estimate, and you will see the actual numbers finalized in the right-hand column there. And if you flip to the next page, you will see what we're talking about here in terms of the achievement of that certainty. So that Lorraine High School was built on time and approximately $2.367 million under budget, utilizing a local workforce, skilled workforce. Again, that's what we're trying to achieve here, and I'd be happy to take any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Solazzi. I'll open it up to the committee. Mr. Tolet?
Not a question, but a comment. One of the things that also makes me so comfortable with this that wasn't mentioned is the safety factor. One of the things that labor takes into account is the high level of safety in the workplace. And indirectly, that's an enormous cost savings and potential cost savings to the city. So I wholeheartedly endorse the PLA. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Oswald?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I do like what I'm hearing. My question would be, as far as the union employees, the laborers, subcontractors, union, do you have enough workers in Lorraine County that's going to be able to handle this? Or are you going to get to a point where we don't have enough people in the hall? You got to call in from somewhere else. How's that go? Thank you.
Through the chair, Mr. Oswald and Mr. Tolet, thank you for your comments as well. Mr. Oswald, very, very good question. My understanding in speaking with our regional council leadership is that we have more than enough qualified, skilled local workers to complete this project on time and on, or knock on wood, hopefully under budget. Excellent question.
Thank you. Mr. Callahan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. Not really a question, but an observation. When you have dedicated workers, skilled trades workers, doing the job, it's no wonder that Lorraine school project came in under budget. So I commend you, I commend your workers, and I say buy local, support local, and just keep it local. Thank you.
I agree. Thank you, Mr. Callahan. And Mrs. Davis?
Through you, Chair. Thank you for using labor. I retired from labor, so my respect is to labor, because I know what we can do as labor, and working together, nothing can be done that we can't do. And thank you so much for being labor.
Thank you, Mrs. Davis. Mr. Armstrong?
Through you, Chair, I'm not on this committee, but I just have a comment also. I think this is an amazing idea, and it also gives the future children out of all these workers a sense of, hey, my family member built that. So people will drive by for many, many years and see like, hey, my grandfather helped with that, or my grandmother helped with that. So I think this is an awesome and amazing idea, and definitely a supporter of this. Thank you all.
Thank you. Mr. Oswald?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Matt, I will let you know that I've grown up being a non-union carpenter, and I said that. But what I have learned over the years, and I've had friends that we've always had, not arguments, but discussions. What I've learned is because of the unions, the non-union workers like myself got better wages, more safety places to work. So we benefited for what you guys work for, so I appreciate that and I commend you for that. So that's something that I learned over the years, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Oswald. Mrs. Mitchell?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I just want to say I agree with everyone else. Support local, buy local, use local. Thank you. I support this.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All right, I'll read the committee report. We've considered the matter of creating a project labor agreement, PLA, for the construction of the new Central Maintenance Public Works Complex. An ordinance authorizing said agreement. Emergency clauses requested to maintain project timeframe. I'll entertain a motion from Community Development.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Oswald.
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Mitchell.
Question.
Question's been called. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
On behalf of Finance, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Motion's been made and properly seconded.
Question?
Question.
Question's been called. All in favor, use the voting sign aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Mayor Brubaker?
Yes, first of all, I want to thank Matt for his great explanation of this, but I want to thank you council members for supporting this. I said we've been sending stuff out, keeping you abreast of this. I think this is going to be very important for the city, for our residents, for our labor workers, but I appreciate your support. Thank you.
I said it was emergency.
Yeah, it was emergency.
Yep. All right, if there's no further business to come before this committee, I'll entertain a motion from Community Development to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
Question.
Question's been called. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
I'm sorry?
Just a reminder, we're still on the record.
Watch that step. All right, we will continue on with Finance. First item on the agenda is number 1, the matter of approval of meeting minutes from the Finance Committee meeting on February 10th, 2025 is circulated. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Motion's been made and properly seconded.
Question.
Question's been called. All in favor, use the voting sign aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, number 2, the matter of delinquent and final utility accounts approved by the Utility Resolution Board and to be certified to the Lorraine County Auditor's Office. Director Connor.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. There is a list of about maybe 12.5 accounts totaling $10,455.52 that need to go over for certification as a lien on the property.
Are there any questions from the committee? Mr. Snyder.
Through you, Mr. Chair, just my typical rant. I just think it's crazy that we're just going to continue to have these sewer-only charges in these new developments, because this is where they're all coming in. I mean, this is a continued issue. I think we need, I don't know, but I'm just having a talking point here. I think something needs to be addressed with this. It's an ongoing issue, and we're going to have more and more growth in those areas. So,
I totally agree, and I would like to discuss that with you outside of this meeting to send to utilities
a referral.
a referral
Perfect. Thank you.
from this committee so that we can address those. I agree. I'm sorry.
So through you, Mr. Chair, I can tell you that the regulations are being worked on based upon comments from council as far as late fees. I will tell you that my estimation is that, and I do appreciate that it is frustrating, but most of these new communities, I would imagine, have mortgages, and based upon that, we will be receiving this money. Maybe not timely, but as you well know, we are not in the position as a city to turn off sewers, and even if we could, I do not think that is something that we would want to be doing for a variety of reasons. Health hazards come to mind first and foremost, but I can say my understanding, and through you, Director Connor, is that our collection rate through this process is quite high. Is that correct?
Right, it's in like the 85 to 90%. We're waiting for our money to come this time since taxes were collected last month. We've been bringing in quite a bit.
Director Panowski.
Thank you. We have two options when it comes to utilities and the non-payment. We can certify them over to the auditor to collect them, or we can, and sometimes we do both, we can shut off the service, right? We can't shut off the sewer. So while I appreciate it might be frustrating and what have you, ultimately we are collecting them, it's delayed. We'll look at a penalty, adding a penalty in the future for late payments, and hopefully that'll maybe motivate some people. But while you might be frustrated, if you would like to suggest to me an alternative, I'd be happy to be part of that conversation too, because I'd be happy to.
Through you, Mr. Chair, there's no way that, because we're also they're paying sanitation and sewer in their bill, there's no way to interrupt the sanitation, right? The trash pickup, if they're not paying their sewer.
What do you think happens to the trash if we don't pick
Then
it
it
up?
just piles up.
Right. So, I mean, there's a public health purpose there. I mean, there's a number of things, and we're still collecting it. It's just delayed.
Right.
So ultimately, I'm not as frustrated with it as you are. So I think the penalties might maybe motivate some people. And maybe we could have some conversation with the customers as to why the payments are delayed in the first place. I mean, that might be a legitimate thing. If they're living in a house, like we've seen some of them sold and for the values in those new neighborhoods, why isn't the sewer being paid? Maybe that's a conversation we can have too with them to get a better understanding of why the payments are either tardy or we have to pursue them and make that extra effort.
Thank you, Director.
Any additional questions from the committee? If not, I'll read the committee report. We have considered the matter of inactive delinquent public utility accounts. A resolution authorizing said delinquent accounts to be certified to the Lorain County Auditor's Office as per the attached list. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded.
Question?
Question's been called. All in favor, use the voting sign aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, the matter of city property that is unfit for use and to be taken out of service and to be disposed of by the best means possible. Supervisor Curtis. Welcome.
Good evening. This is a matter of selling a piece of equipment that we found no longer efficient to use. This was purchased back in 2018 for close to 78 grand. What we found with this machine was that it only makes a certain amount of material that won't allow us to get through a long work day. What I mean by that, it only makes 1.5 ton. Our hot boxes hold 4 ton. So with that being said, we'll have a longer list, and we can't finish the list without constantly making a batch, and it won't get us through the work day. So with that being said, what we found ourselves doing is going back to the old system, using our 2 hot boxes with cold patch. For example, we used 2 hot boxes last week, had 2 crews running, so therefore we would get a lot more patched in a work day versus if we were using this unit, we'd probably get half of that done, not even half. So like I said, we found ourselves not using that just because it didn't allow us to be as efficient as we would like.
Safety Service Director.
Thank you, through you. We've owned this piece of equipment for about 6 years. I refer to it as a hot patch machine. So you put in the material and it warms it up, and we use it for pothole patching. Instead, the preference is to use the cold patch with the hot boxes, and so that works pretty well. But in 6 years, we've got 100 hours of use on it. So it kind of shows you how little we're using it. Instead of it sitting in the yard and continue to rust and you know, whatever, I said, let's see if we can sell it. With the amount of use on it, we might be able to recoup a fair amount of what we paid for it. We can put that towards a piece of equipment that better fits our operations. One of the challenges that we've identified is that some of the other communities that use this piece of equipment, they have somebody, a person or 2 dedicated to working the hot patch machine. So when they come back with the trucks to reload, they're always cycling. Our team out there at Street Department just frankly isn't big enough to dedicate a person or 2 to do that. So that's one of the reasons why it doesn't fit our needs. But you know, to Preston's point, we have a list of potholes or streets we're trying to deal. You know, we get a lot less done if we try and use this machine, and so it just doesn't quite work for our structure. And so we'd like to try and recoup what we can out of it and put that towards other operational needs.
The cost of non-efficiency is much greater than the cost of the equipment, so. Mr. Oswald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not on this committee. Thanks for coming up, Preston. Just a curious question. To get those boxes ready to go out on the road to start throwing them on the streets, how long does that take before you leave the yard?
Generally, we have it loaded. The next day, we'll have it loaded, so as soon as we pull out, we turn the box on and it'll be ready to go.
Oh, okay.
So we could have a whole patch within, you know, less than 15 minutes, depending on the location.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mrs. Mitchell?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not on this committee. I don't have a question as much as a comment. Preston, Mr. Curtis, thank you. I know I bug you all the time, and I really do appreciate everything that you guys do. So thank you so much. And I know that pothole season is upon us, so I'll be bugging you more.
Sounds good.
Ms. Davis?
Through you, Chair, I just want to say it's good to see you in here.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you for coming in. Just for one thing, to let us know that you're still over there besides on the phone all the time. So I have a personal number with you. Thank you for that.
Any additional questions? If not, I'll read the committee report. We have considered the matter of finding the city has a 2018 KMT2 asphalt recycler to be declared unfit for municipal use and to be disposed of by the best means possible. A resolution declaring the said equipment unfit for municipal use and an ordinance authorizing the said equipment to be disposed of by the best means possible in accordance with the law per the attached list. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded.
Question?
Mr. Snyder, excuse me.
On the referral, it does say and be declared an emergency. Is that true?
Through you, Mr. Chair, these typically are not emergencies. If there's some legislation language that I can use, I mean, so
I was just pointing it
a
out
proper.
that
No, I appreciate that. I noticed it as well.
Through you, Mr. Chair, if we could have it more timely, that would just means we could get it listed for sale sooner. But if it's not standard practice, I can't identify a true emergency for it. So I think that's probably proper to just wait the time out.
Okay. The motion has been made and seconded.
Question?
Question's been called. All in favor, please use the voting sign aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is number 4, the matter of support of State Issue 2, renewal of the State Capital Improvement Program on the May 6th, 2025 statewide primary ballot. Engineer Schneider.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple weeks ago, the city received a request from the county engineer's office to get the city's support on State Issue 2. State Issue 2 is our Ohio Public Works program that we've done for the past 38 years, I believe it is. This is a 10-year cycle that it's voted on by the residents of the state of Ohio. This is a very, very good program. Has been a very good program for us over the past 38 years. We've done a lot of roads. I thought I would throw out there just a couple of the roads that we've done over the past couple of years, just so the people understand some of these roads that probably wouldn't have been resurfaced, or it would have eaten a large chunk of our resurfacing funds. But last year, we did Furnace Street from Lake Avenue to West River Road. We did Abbey Road South from East Broad Street to University. We did Midway Boulevard from Tillotson to West River. In 2023, we resurfaced Abbey Road South from Chestnut to University. We also resurfaced Chestnut Ridge Road from State Route 57 to Stillwater over there in front of Chestnut Commons. We resurfaced Foster Avenue from Lorraine Boulevard to West River Road. And we resurfaced Lake Avenue from State Route 132 Parmalee. This year, we have roughly 5 on the list right now to be resurfaced. Those are West River Road from Foster Avenue to State Route 57. We have Murray Ridge Road from the Southern Corporation lines north to about Delbert. So that's the DH to the Murray Ridge schools. We have Golf Road from Vista Court to Hilliard Road. We have East River from East Broad Street to Lincoln Court. And we have Leona Street from Griswold Road to Midway Boulevard. As I said, this has been a great program. It allowed the city to leverage its dollars and get these larger, more important streets done without having to dip into the street resurfacing funds.
Mrs. Mitchell, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I am so happy. You know how bad Murray Ridge is. It is absolutely horrible. Out of all the streets that I get complaints about, Murray Ridge is the one I get the most complaints about. So that it's going to get done this year makes me ecstatic. So thank you very, very much.
Please.
Through you, Mr. Chair, Engineer Schneider, in anticipation of drawing up a resolution, if you could just email me that grocery list of projects that you just rattled off.
Today, we're just looking for council support of Issue
Right.
2.
But what I'm saying is that if you could send me the list of local projects, I will incorporate that into our resolution.
Okay.
Because I think that would be helpful, so.
Great idea.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Oswald?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm not on this committee, but I guess she's real happy. I'm real sad because I was hoping Washington Avenue from Broad Street on down was going to get on that list, but it didn't make the list.
We didn't apply for that one last year. We ran out of money as far as what we were applying for. We were already about $1 million in. These streets for this year are going to be about $1 million. The plan is to apply for this year, for next year, if possibly.
Okay.
For different areas.
Mr. Schneider?
Through you, Mr. Chair, thank you. I think Leona Street is a great road to be resurfacing with that major project opening up soon at the end of the corner. The Pace, I think it's Pace, right? McGregor Pace. So just a comment. Thank you.
Any additional questions? If not, I will read the committee report then. We have considered the matter of a resolution of support for renewal of State Issue 2, Ohio Public Works Commission State Capital Improvement Program. This program supports local roadways and water protection projects. A resolution of support of the said state issue, which will be on the primary ballot on May 6, 2025. Can I get a motion?
So move.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded.
Question.
Question's been called. All in favor, please use the voting sign aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Whoops. Next item on the agenda is number 5, the matter of the 2025 permanent appropriations, the 2025 budget. I'll kind of start the segue of this. One of the things that I asked the mayor and safety service director is to meet with our department heads, see where and what could be cut for the process moving forward. And I wanted to thank them for doing that. I want to thank the police department and fire department for making substantial cuts. I'd like to thank Mr. Farrell and Mr. Pileski for all they've done in this and digging through this front and back. At this time, though, I am going to turn it over to Mayor. Do you want to kick this off, or would you like Mr. Pileski and Mr. Farrell to kick it off? If you would.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, since we met 2 weeks ago to start the discussion about the 2025 permanent appropriation, there's been 2 changes in those 2 weeks. Mr. Tollett referred to the first one where the police and fire departments both lowered their operating requests by $100,000 each in the general fund, so that helps us out a little bit. The other change involves an ongoing problem we're having with health care costs. So the employees' health insurance fund, through the first 2 months of the year, claim costs were $2.1 million, revenues were $1.6 million. So we lowered our cash balance in the employees' health insurance fund by $500,000 the first 2 months of the year. So we're anticipating that trend to continue. Our consultants are considering that healthcare cost claims are going to go up 12% this year. So as a result, we took a look at the fund and it's obvious that we need more funding. So the health insurance fund is an internal service fund. So it gets its money from all the other funds that service payroll to employees. So, for example, like if people in the water pumping department, they get paid out of the water fund, their health insurance gets paid out of the water fund. That goes into the health insurance fund, and the claim costs are paid out of one fund, which is the employees' health insurance fund. So we had to come up with another $1,025,000 to get us through this year and to cover all the anticipated health care costs. Of that amount, the general fund is going to bear $558,000 of that cost. So we're going into this appropriation with about a $46 million permanent appropriation in the general fund with only revenues of $36 million. And the only reason why we can even talk about doing that is because we carried $15 million over. But obviously, if we spend that $15 million down too far, we're going to have a glaring problem next year. So, but we've been through the budget. Most of this is just current employees. But the healthcare costs have bumped that appropriation up in the general fund by $500,000, so.
And this is being discussed internally with the Healthcare Committee, correct?
Yes, I believe they're scheduled to meet Thursday of this week. So the current funding mechanism is, it's funded 85% by the city and 15% by the employee's contribution. So that, I assume, will remain intact, but the entire contribution could go up 12%.
Okay. So in addition to that, it appears the numbers for quarter one, when we complete March, will be less negative than we thought, than we forecasted. Is that an accurate statement?
Yeah, so we started the year January with, we are down 1.3 million, I believe, in the general
Yes.
fund. So we kind of broke even in February. I think we were down like 35,000. So February is a good month. January, there was 3 paydays. We have
Right.
another one of those in August. So it's bad, but it's not as bad as what it could be. I'll put
Right,
it to you that way.
exactly.
Yeah.
So what we have discussed is moving forward with the budget as circulated. For right now, Mr. Pileski has to present this to the state by the end of the month. Is that correct?
To the Lorraine County Budget Commission.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, the county budget. And so what is being shown right now is a slightly revised budget, is that correct? Okay, at this point then, is it okay to turn it over? Are you good with turning it over to Mr. Farrell, please?
Well, through you, Chair. So really, the only 2 changes Ted discussed was to the health insurance fund. There was about $1 million between all the funds, and then the reduction to the police and fire, or the couple $100,000. So the total for all funds at this point is $206,988,000, and that was an increase from $206,348,000 for all the funds. So with the reductions and the health insurance increase, it's the difference between the original finance meeting until now is about $600,000.
So just keep in mind with the change to the health insurance fund is enough to, I think, correct the problem for this year, but even that being said, there's a good chance we won't carry any money over in the health insurance fund into next year. So this is going to be an ongoing problem until we actually, I think the committee needs to look at the plan itself and possibly make some changes to the plan, because I don't believe healthcare costs are going to drop anytime soon. So this is going to be an ongoing problem. And like I said, that fund gets its money from all the other funds that we appropriate: general, water, sanitation, wastewater, street. So that it all impacts their fund, their appropriation as well.
So
Go ahead.
So this is the total by fund that was increased from the last meeting. Now, the difference between 2024 to 2025, there was an increase that was implemented at the beginning of the year, which I believe was already 11%. So this additional monies, and we're just kind of treading water here, hoping that at least for this quarter and going forward till we can see what's going on. The first 10, we get a billing cycle every week from Medical Mutual. The first 10 bills have increased an average of 17% from last year at this time. So I don't recall it ever being a consistent increase week to week of those types of numbers, so. And again, this is something that we will be meeting with this committee on Thursday. So, and they've, over the years, they've done a great job of trying to build this fund up. As 2 years ago, there was $3 million in this fund. Now we're down to, hopefully we can pay the bill next week, so.
Going back in time, I used to panic when our weekly bill for Medical Mutual was $150,000. This year, we've had at least three, I think, that have been over $300,000. That's weekly.
Already. Sorry. Mr. Stewart, did you have a question? Okay.
Just through you, Chair, that's just this year already. I mean,
Yes.
it's the first couple months.
So we're going to have to keep a very, even though it's my belief that we'll pass this budget to move forward and send it to full council, it's something we as a council are going to have to keep our eye on very, very closely through calendar year 2025.
Yes, I agree. And we're starting income tax revenues for the first 2 months of the year were up 5% as compared to first 2 months of 2024. So we're starting out good, but, and of course, when the project that was discussed earlier, the Public Works Complex, that's going to help when that gets underway because we'll collect income tax revenues from those employees working on the job site.
Again, Mr. Stewart?
No, I was just going to ask, I don't know if there's any projections based on the estimate of what's been proposed, the $22 million. Is there projections of maybe potentially what that's going to generate?
Of the income tax?
Yes, from the workers that are going to be working at the complex. I mean, is there a early estimate of, I know you don't have it now, but I didn't know if there's any projections of maybe potentially what that's going to end up looking like.
That would depend on what percent of the cost is
The bids.
labor versus materials.
Well, if you just figure half of his labor, so it's 10 million, say 10 million, our income tax rate is 2.25%, so it'd be 225,000.
Approximately, yeah.
That puts in another big street.
What is the through you, Chair, what is the makeup of the health board, health insurance? What is it? Is it all the unions and finance director, safety service director?
Safety service director, please.
Do you? I'm on there. Law Director's Office has a representative. I believe Finance does. Each union has a representative. I believe that's the bulk of it. The courts have a representative. Am I missing anybody, John? I mean, we have some other folks that join us for the meetings for informational purposes, but I think those are the voting members.
When was, through you, Chair, when was the last time you met in regards to this?
Last month.
Last month.
Okay. Mr. Oswald?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not on this committee, but, so you got a 5% increase in the income tax revenue. So was that because of all the street work that was being done at that point that we had that much of an increase? Or can't you really detect, why?
The 5%? A lot of it is timing, companies will turn in withholdings sometimes at the end of the month, sometimes at the beginning of the month, but a lot of it is timing. But typically, a normal year, we go up 3 to 4%. Nothing too, I don't think we'll maintain a 5% bump the entire year.
There was large labor inflation in 2024, which drives our part of that up. Yes, Mr. Snyder.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I don't know if this is directed more to the finance director or the law director, or if anyone even knows what's going on. Has anyone heard anything about the marijuana tax? Is there any update on that? I know we were up in the air last time it was brought up.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the only thing that I've heard is that they're looking very hard at not giving any host money to the host cities. I think what they're looking at doing is keeping it and then possibly issuing grants to municipalities for police operations, police training, but I don't know if they would award the host cities more than the non-host cities. I don't know that, but it's a very good chance that we won't see that money.
Also, what I read, there in the Ohio House has a bill that's being discussed. The Ohio Senate has a bill being discussed too, and they're not even close. I'll turn it over to Director Deary.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I mean, there's still a lot of discussions, but bottom line is that the General Assembly is looking to dismantle the formula that was in the original state law that was passed, and much like they are looking to do with, for instance, local income tax, et cetera, looking to find a way to centralize it and in all likelihood not distribute it back to the cities. Certainly not the way that it was initially set out in the legislation.
Both the House and the Senate, in their first writings being circulated, had the money going into the general fund of the state of Ohio, 100% of it, which is completely, as I interpret it, in contradiction to the ballot language.
The law as it stands now, yes.
The law as it
So,
stands
but
now.
as we know, I mean, it was not a constitutional amendment, and laws can and often are amended, and that's where we are.
Thank you all
So,
for your update.
I would say best I can recommend is talk to your representatives if you have concerns or questions.
So through you, Mr. Chair, so obviously, I did not include any of that in my estimated revenues. It wasn't even appropriated at the state, so.
Any addition, Mr. Stewart?
Yeah, I'd just be remiss. Ms. Worker, who is not here tonight, sent an email to both you and I in regards, so I wanted to forward this on to more so the administration. Looking at, freezing all non-essential buying equipment for the next few months. Is there any equipment that's being looked at to be purchased? Are we going to be holding off on that? These are her recommendations or maybe conversation points?
Yeah, when Councilwoman Sawerka informed us that she had sent those recommendations, and I asked her to forward them on to us to take a look at. And so one is about freezing non-essential equipment, one is about freezing non-essential hires, and then there's a third topic about reciprocity and having a conversation about that. For the first two, which are in the administration's wheelhouse or control, we have started to look at those things. We are at the beginning of the year, so some of our capital purchases have already been determined, and so those will go forward by and large, but it's things going forward from now that will be and I have canceled a couple of previously thought and approved capital expenditures, not of great significant value, but enough that it starts making a difference. And we do have I want to say a total of about 7 positions that that are vacant right now that we have decided not to fill at this time. And we'll review every vacancy before we fill it to make a determination as to whether is it a necessity or is it a convenience, and make some of those determinations. So we have started looking at the first 2 things that she recommended, yes.
And those 7 employees are people that were on the 2024 budget that will be removed, not included in the 2025 budget, as I understand that. Is that correct?
Correct. They were budgeted for.
Right.
And so we are not filling those positions. So it should result in either a surplus at the end, which, unless the finance directors remove them from the budget, then that would be a reduction that we've already realized.
I'm sorry, Mr. Pileski?
As far as capital in the general fund, so there was a request for another fire truck at about $900,000 and police vehicles totaling $360,000, I believe. I took them 2 out the first day I looked at it, so.
Okay. Any additional questions regarding the budget? Mr. Farrell, did you have anything else?
Thanks, Chair. In regards to the income tax, so far in 2025, the information that I had sent out, the largest increase we have right now is in the net profit line. So as you know, we have employee withholdings and corporate net profits. So while it's, it's positive that we have an increase, hopefully the withholding will improve too. It's where we really hope to sustain long-term income tax increases.
Thank you. Any additional questions? If not, I will read the, oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Davis, I'm sorry.
Through you, Chair, I'm looking at this, and Carvana, are they going away? I understand that they had filed bankruptcy, and I don't know if they're going to stay in our area or not.
You say Carvana?
Carvana, yeah.
I think it's part of the JET agreement.
Right.
Right. I've not heard anything. I don't know that, have you? No. Heard anything?
Yeah.
We do meet on that JED quarterly, a couple times a year, and it didn't come up at our last meeting, but we can inquire, but I've not heard that.
Please do, because it's online.
So Carvana is part of it. They're not in the city.
Right.
They're in the township. So as you can see in 2024, it's a bottom line there. We got $6,135 from them. I mean, it's negligible,
Any more questions? If not, then I will read the committee report.
Mr. Tully, I do have a question. Sorry to interrupt over and through. So obviously, this is the budget to get us through this year, through you. I guess obviously is the biggest concern at the end of this year, making, critical decisions. This is going to be evaluated as we continue to go through the process and looking at things. I mean, is there a plan, like as far as, within midway through this year to obviously reevaluating and making these critical cuts? I guess the next thing is going to end up being, towards the end of this year for the 2026 budget, because based on, the finance director's comments that we need $5 million by next year to kind of get this balanced. Is that a accurate statement, or to
Through you,
keep
Mr.
things
Chair.
moving?
Yeah, I think we, at the very minimum, we have to carry 10 million over, because the revenues, they're not going to, unless we get some activity at the Midway Mall or downtown or at the Bendix building, they're not going to grow very much. So if we don't carry 10 million over, if you add 10 to the 36, that's 46 million. We still will be short next year because we have the 27 pays next year. So one payroll in the general fund is 1.4 million now. So 10 million may not even be enough carryover to get us through next year.
Any additional questions? If not, I will read the committee report. We have considered the matter of permanent appropriations for the year 2025, an ordinance authorizing the permanent appropriations for the city of Elyria for 2025, the annual budget. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion's been made and properly seconded.
Question.
Question's been called. All in favor, use a voting sign aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is number 6, the matter of amendments to the 2025 temporary appropriations. Director Pileski?
We have no amendments to the temporary.
If not, that concludes our business for this evening. I would accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded.
Question.
Question's been called. All in favor, use a voting sign aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.